Good morning, my dear friends. Have an excellent Thursday. Well,
Flávio Bolsonaro put on his resume that he had a postgraduate degree in political science from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. Yes,
and it turns out the university said they don't have that record there. Lying again, Flavio?
no, guys, how can such a liar want to be president of the republic? If he lies about something like this, he is capable of anything. Look here, for God's sake, Jesus. And Flavio discloses his academic background. Correct academic background after UFRJ denied any postgraduate record. Senator and presidential candidate Flávio Bolsonaro published his correct academic background on Wednesday night
After his official profiles indicated a postgraduate program at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro that he never attended. He was caught lying. Then he had to tell the truth. Does that make any sense, guys? No. The Congressman Federal Deputy Marcelo Freixo talked about the situation here. How can a guy who lies like that want to be president of the republic? Give me a break, right, guys? There are things we just can't put up with. Pay attention here.
Flávio Bolsonaro, the lying candidate. That's right, he's a compulsive liar. It's unbelievable. His latest one, just now, Flávio, on several official profiles, announced the following. I did postgraduate studies at UFRJ. He claimed to have studied political science at UFRJ. The one who said this was the candidate, Flávio Bolsonaro. Well, UFRJ just published a statement. Flávio Bolsonaro never studied at UFRJ. And then your staff, Flávio, just said the following. It must have been some internet error. What internet error, buddy? You were the one who said it. You were the one who lied. Admit it. I'm not a liar. I need treatment. I lie every day. Flavio, I swear to God, you need treatment, man. You need treatment, man. You can't live without lying anymore. It's one after another. I don't know Vorcaro. You're a close friend of Vorcaro. I'm not. I don't know his captain. He gave you shooting lessons. You hired his family. You're a compulsive liar, Flavio. So you still want to be president of Brazil? For God's sake, man. He's the lying candidate, folks. It's not possible. This candidacy isn't serious. You can't take someone who lies like him every day seriously, right? It's Lula for president. Let's go.
Yeah, deputies. Your Excellency said he needs treatment, right? Now I think the treatment should be in Papuda prison. He lies shamelessly. Play it, Flavio. Give me a break. Lula, four-time winner, right? And today, the TSC starts dealing with the situation. Can it be used? AI-generated video. Artificial intelligence in this election? How did the PL, Flávio Bolsonaro, use Bolsonaro's image with Bolsonaro's voice at the convention in a video as if Bolsonaro himself was speaking? Can it be used or not? The TSC is starting to address this today. Let's see here, my dear. Look at this. And with no consensus on Bolsonaro's AI-generated video, the TSC meets to discuss deepfakes. The judge scheduled a meeting with the other members of the court to begin after this morning's plenary session. They are expected to build a common understanding that can serve as a precedent for other cases involving artificial intelligence during the electoral process. And I'll tell you, there are already precedents and regulations stating that it cannot be used. Now, because Flavio used it. And now we have Nunes Marques, a Bolsonaro supporter appointed by Bolsonaro as the president of the TSC, and the vice president, André Mendonça, the terribly evangelical one, appointed by Bolsonaro to the Supreme Federal Court. That's why they went to the TSC, and now it seems like they are going to accept it. No, they won't, let me tell you. Things are getting heated over at the TSC. I heard that Nunes Marques Saúde Brasil, news value. I heard that Nunes Marques is being pressured inside and that the other ministers are noticing his alignment. Nunes Marques with Flávio Bolsonaro, and they're pressuring Nunes Marques. Let's take a look here. They really have to put pressure, for God's sake. Give me a break, folks. There's no need to take sides at all. What needs to be done is what's right, what's just, isn't it? Of course, obviously.
Cássio is criticized in the TSE for allegedly signaling to Flávio Bolsonaro. The minister denies it. Aí, Folha de São Paulo interviewed 5 ministers and technical staff from Brazil's Superior Electoral Court and Federal Supreme Court, who say they have identified in Cassio's decisions and statements in recent months alignment with the positions of the legal team of the senator and presidential candidate Flávio Bolsonaro. The group cites as an example the censorship of a poll at the request of Flávio's campaign, of Flávio. Cássio also indicated agreement with the senator's lawyers regarding the legality of the deepfake of Jair Bolsonaro, which was shown at the Liberal Party convention. The full court will hear the case next week. Under pressure, according to allies, Cássio is expected to oppose the discussion. Fakes. Whether to promote a candidacy or to attack opponents. But according to Folha, he will take a stand against Flávio because he is being pressured to act correctly. And that his alignment with Flávio is not being well received, not at the Superior Electoral Court, nor at the Federal Supreme Court. We can't forget that Cássio Nunes Marques and André Mendonça, that their single justice rulings will necessarily have to go before the full 7-member bench of the Superior Electoral Court, who can overturn their decisions or change them. Besides that, these decisions by the Superior Electoral Court's full bench are still subject to review through appeals to the Federal Supreme Court, which can also overturn the decisions and they can change the whole situation there, okay? So, like, will Cássio Nunes Marques really put himself on the line because of Flávio? And André Mendonça, what do you think? I think that whatever strings they can pull to help, they will. But what they can actually do is very limited, really, because as I said, everything has to go through a panel. Even when it comes to appeals, even to the Federal Supreme Court, which can overturn everything. So it would be a huge political cost. But when it comes to buying time and things like that, he will do it. For example, I just read to you, Nunes Marques, he censored a poll in which Lula was almost winning in the first round. He simply censored the poll, saying that the poll was biased, and that wasn't the case at all. And his decision, by the way, still hasn't gone before the full court. And yes, that poll in which Lula was well ahead of Flávio Bolsonaro is still censored. So in this kind of situation, if he can do it and benefit from it, we already know what they are going to do. That's why it's so important for us to be together, spreading the word, talking and showing, so that people don't fall for the traps that are out there being spread on social media, including by a lot of corporate media. Okay? That's why don't miss the opportunity and vote to make Lula a 4-time president, and maybe even in the first round. Meanwhile, the Attorney General's office defends maintaining the restrictions imposed on Bolsonaro and banning visits with political content. The Brazil's Prosecutor General's office, the PGR, defended maintaining the restrictions imposed by Minister Alexandre de Moraes on Jair Bolsonaro. The statement sent to the Federal Supreme Court comes after the former president's defense filed internal appeals against the suspension of visits and political statements. That's right. The PGR, in its decision, briefly said the following. Bolsonaro disobeyed court-ordered restrictions. And so he wouldn't go back to jail. Minister Alexandre de Moraes imposed several other restrictions on him, from the most lenient to the most prohibitive and restrictive, which is going back to jail. Exactly that. So,
And he said more that the fact that Flávio Bolsonaro is a lawyer doesn't mean anything in this situation.
and that to prevent Bolsonaro from going back to jail, Alexandre de Moraes is out. Correct. In the visiting restrictions, including the restriction on Flávio's visit, since he was using the situation politically, even to the detriment of his own father, who could go back to jail because of Flávio Bolsonaro's actions. Let's take a quick look at this decision from the Prosecutor General, who agrees with Alexandre de Moraes. This part right here. What does the Prosecutor General say? It's true that preserving family ties does not exempt visitation rights from the rules of enforcement. And this is not a case where it should be treated as absolute. Contact remains subject to the determinations established by the court and may be limited as a response to non-compliance with the conditions set for serving the sentence. The fact that he is Senator Flávio Bolsonaro's lawyer also does not exempt him from complying with the conditions set by the humanitarian measure granted. The claim that the defense was being hindered loses force, considering that Mr. Jair Bolsonaro continues to be assisted by the lawyers appointed in the proceedings, with the access needed for the defense preserved. The restriction of visits for political or electoral purposes and the prohibition of the disclosure of acts of this nature. It is based on the condition of being convicted and on the rules that govern the current regime of sentence execution. Compliance with the rules of the closed prison regime remains mandatory, except for the specific benefits granted under the humanitarian arrangement. The Attorney General also highlighted the benefits of humanitarian relief, which Flávio is trying to take away from Bolsonaro. Actually, he emphasized the humanitarian benefits. The Attorney General also highlighted the humanitarian benefits. The Attorney General also highlighted the humanitarian benefits. The Attorney General also highlighted the humanitarian benefits. He was going to throw his own father under the bus so his father would go back to Papuda prison. Then he could use that politically as persecution, poor thing, victims, and so on. In reality, he didn't care at all about his father and just wanted to get Bolsonaro sent back to Papuda prison. That's why the Attorney General agreed with Alexandre de Moraes. Alexandre de Moraes is right. As far as I'm concerned, he could go back to Papuda. I have no problem with that. That's not a problem for me. But anyway, Alexandre de Moraes is doing what human rights require, what the court is supposed to do. So much so that the Attorney General agreed. But for me, he can go back to Papuda. It's not a problem. Meanwhile, Lula's special secretary, the ambassador, yes, the diplomat, went there, was summoned to the committee in the Chamber of Deputies, and went there to provide some clarifications, right? And he provided some clarifications because the Bolsonaro supporters, they are telling a lot of lies about this whole situation, right? To protect Donald Trump, to kiss Donald Trump's boots, and to bash Lula. And he clarified some very important things. Take a look here. Bizarrely, the United States did not follow the rules when appointing an ambassador, says Amorim. What happened bizarrely in this case is that the United States did not follow international conventions at all. First, they made it public before the agreement was granted. And perhaps more seriously, they proceeded with the process in the US Senate without having Brazil's agreement. This behavior is completely contrary to international rules.
The United States, Donald Trump, is doing everything to create friction between the United States and Brazil, to say that Brazil is the problem, that Lula is the problem. They want to force Brazil to swallow it. A diplomat, the United States ambassador here in Brazil, who wasn't even approved by the Senate, who doesn't even have all the proper documentation for Senate approval. And they want Brazil to accept this ambassador, who isn't even really an ambassador. And Brazil said no. They will only accept the ambassador after all the legal requirements for that have been met. Just like the United States does with Brazil. They only accept ambassadors and so on and so forth. So he explained this situation. And he also talked about the issue of the PCC, the Comando Vermelho, being considered a terrorist group and so on. He said that people shouldn't get confused. PCC, terrorists, they're criminals. They have to be fought. That's right. But that can't be used as an excuse for a foreign country to come and intervene in our country. That can happen. Look at what he said here yesterday in the committee over at the Federal Chamber of Deputies. Pay attention here.
And now we can't confuse this, which is Brazil's top priority, with me as the Minister of Defense. I know about the difficulties that exist, including defining what can be considered a defense action and what can be considered a public security action. I've been to Maré several times. I've been up there in Morro do Alemão. I know all of this up close, so it doesn't surprise me. It's not something simple. Even from the perspective of Brazilian law, it's complex. Now, my difficulty isn't, if you want, using common vocabulary to compare these actions to a form of terrorism. That's a freedom anyone can have. Now, terrorism in the international arena has a specific definition. The UN is dedicated to this, and it's hard to reach a definition because there are also differences, not just this, not just the ones Your Excellency mentioned, but others as well. For example, when I lived in the United Kingdom, and I don't like naming other countries since it's a friendly country and they have excellent relations. The Catholic Irish who fought for the separation of Ireland were considered terrorists. So it's very difficult to define. Arabs have always considered that, let's say, national liberation attempts could not be equated with terrorism. But going back to the specific point Your Excellency mentioned, I strongly support, President Lula strongly supports the strongest action against organized crime within Brazilian law. What we cannot accept is that a third country uses this as a pretext against us, going through various measures, but ultimately culminating in military action, as happened in Venezuela, and which is mentioned in the video I referred to as an example of what could happen in other countries, not only because of terrorism, but for other reasons, but any that would distance countries from American interests. So what I'm doing is making this distinction. I totally agree, President Lula agrees. Now, he is also concerned about not just catching the small-time criminal there, the kid from Cidade de Deus, who had no choice but to join a gang. He is interested in knowing who is in charge, who helps launder the money, who exports the weapons. So it's a more complex issue. And above all, it's not an issue that justifies international action, whether in the economic or political sphere, against Brazil, against our institutions. That's what I wanted to say.
That's right. It's about making it very clear, right, guys? Do I need to draw a picture? This situation with the United States saying that the Red Command and the PCC are terrorist groups. It's just to give the legal basis that the United States needs to, for example, intervene in Brazil economically, even militarily. Do you understand? With embargoes, with a whole series of measures, and even invading Brazil and carrying out a military operation here. So the United States uses this as an excuse and a pretext to justify interference in Brazil. Who? The United States. Because think about it, if they wanted to solve the problem of crime, drug trafficking, and everything they say they need to fight, why don't they solve it in their own territory? The United States today is suffering from a drug epidemic and hard drugs. And they can't solve it there. They want to solve it here. Obviously, that's just an excuse. And you have to spell it out for those Bolsonaro supporters, right? But the Bolsonaro supporters know this. Many of them know it. That's why many are leaving. Because this is treason against the country, isn't it? Now, many really want Donald Trump to come to Brazil, to interfere in Brazil, to arrest Lula, to drop bombs. But they forget that the bomb that falls on my head falls on yours too.
Right? All for what? To take down Lula.
Yeah, because in the election, Flávio can't take down Lula.
You understand? So that's really unfortunate.
These people, they're dangerous. They're capable of destroying everything we have, which is our homeland, our country, our sovereignty, just to get back into power. You know, that's unacceptable. It's inconceivable that anyone would agree with that. Now, you really do have to fight organized crime. And I've never seen the federal police as active as it is now under President Lula's government. I've never seen it. And they're not going after small fry. They're after the big fish, right, Flavio? They're after the big ones, right? Vorcaro, who's already in jail. So, like, it's a regrettable situation, okay? And the case there against Alexandre de Moraes over in the United States, from Trump media, from humbly there against Alexandre de Moraes, it could end at any moment, you know, guys. Look here, okay? The defense of national sovereignty. The Brazilian government requests the definitive dismissal of the action by Humbly and Trump media against Moraes. Brazil's filing argues that the measures contested by the companies correspond to judicial decisions and the procedures used to communicate them. In the government's assessment, these acts have a sovereign nature because they are inherent to the exercise of the judicial function and could not be carried out by a person in a private capacity. Obviously, Donald Trump is using his influence there even in this ridiculous situation.
Alexandre de Moraes is being sued.
For deciding that Trump media and this other one here will not operate in Brazil. And if they do operate, posts and situations can be taken down if they violate someone else's rights. Videos of pedophilia, posts inciting suicide, drug use, explicit sex, and everything else. Alexandre de Moraes went there and took them down. Then they took action. They filed a lawsuit in the United States against Minister Alexandre de Moraes. Here within the territory, Brazilian jurisdiction is what governs here. It's national sovereignty. If these platforms don't comply with Brazilian legislation, they can't operate here. That's it. It's over, guys. So they're suing Alexandre de Moraes over there. And by the way, you can't even file a lawsuit against Alexandre de Moraes. If they want to sue someone, they have to sue the federal government itself because Alexandre de Moraes was acting as a representative of the Brazilian state within the scope of the judiciary. So this lawsuit here is ridiculous. It is bound to be dismissed. Maybe it won't even be dismissed right now because Donald Trump will use his influence to keep this nonsense going. But nothing will come of it. Unless Donald Trump stages a coup. Because with a coup, whether there or here, then no law matters. The constitution is burned. Do you understand, my dear? But it's absurd, you know? Yeah, these are the kinds of situations. And the Bolsonaro supporters are applauding. Oh, ridiculous people. It's just like the situation with the ban on Discord lives. Do you remember that it was banned? By the National Data Control Agency of Brazil, that Discord is not allowed to host live streams. Discord is a platform that was hosting live streams with animal torture, with mutilation, engagement in mutilation of children, of young people, incitement to suicide, pedophilia, and every kind of terrible situation you can imagine. So the agency then banned Discord from doing live streams. And can this agency do that, Andre? Yes, it can. It's an administrative procedure of oversight. It can and should do it even because of a duty of care that this agency has. Obviously, they will take it to court. This will go to the judiciary, and the final word will be from the judiciary. And you can be sure that if it comes to it, the judiciary will ban Discord from operating in Brazil. It's not just a ban on live streams, no. So, what happened then? The Bolsonaro supporters are against it. Nicolas Ferreira went on social media and Zanata went on social media too, saying that this is censorship, that they can't do this, that this is censorship, blah, blah, blah. Guys, what kind of nonsense is this? How can these people be this stupid? It seems like these people are crazy. They only like what's no good. They talk about beating up criminals and wanting them dead, and yet they keep defending criminals. How absurd. I'm not going to play the video of Nicolas talking here, no. Especially not first thing in the morning, right? I'll just mute it here, but here it is. Look, they're defending, defending, saying that Janja is wrong, that they're going to call the public prosecutor's office because this is censorship. I don't know what else. Let me tell you something. I've never seen a group that likes bad things as much as these Bolsonaristas. A 13-year-old child committed suicide last week because over there, there's this thing called G. How do you say that challenge thing? So teenagers and kids go in there and there's a challenge to see who can torture the most animals live with everything recorded on video. There are some challenges there to see who cuts themselves more, kids and teenagers. And it turned out that this child couldn't complete one of the challenges there, which was to torture the highest number of animals, all filmed. She couldn't do it. She took her own life. She committed suicide, thanks to a Discord live stream in there. Now, the Bolsonaro supporters are saying that Janja is the one who's wrong, that Janja interfered with the agency, I don't know what, okay, bye, bye, bye. For heaven's sake, people, how can you support shady people and criminals the way those Bolsonaro supporters do? Seriously, that's freedom of speech. Does freedom of speech cover that? To kill your child? To mutilate your daughter? Does freedom of speech cover that in Brazil, people? It doesn't. Does freedom of speech cover pedophilia? No, it doesn't. Does freedom of speech cover killing or stealing? No, there isn't. So, like, the more I see this kind of situation, the more I realize, really, thank God we're on the right side. What is this? Jesus must look at the situation like this and think, oh my God, these people are still saying my name. Back off, devil. Mercy. There are so many situations here. Let me tell you something, okay? It's embarrassing. And speaking of embarrassing, look who's trying to come back to the scene of the crime. The Electoral Public Prosecutor's Office cites misconduct and requests the disqualification of Eduardo Cunha's candidacy. The challenge was filed by the Regional Electoral Prosecutor's Office this Tuesday, the 11th. The agency argues that Cunha is ineligible due to a conviction for administrative misconduct and the revocation of his parliamentary mandate in 2016 for breach of decorum. The conviction for administrative misconduct is related to a case decided by a Rio de Janeiro court in 2019. Cunha was convicted in the first instance for illicit enrichment related to the increase of his assets in the years 2001 and 2002. Among the sanctions imposed were the loss of assets, a fine, and suspension of political rights for 8 years. He wants to return to the scene of the crime. What kind of candidates will there be this year?
if the Electoral Court doesn't block it.
He will return to the scene of the crime. Nevertheless, I have to say, Eduardo Cunha is still at the scene of the crime. His daughter, Dani Cunha, is a federal lawmaker. And they say that the one who really runs her office and is constantly involved in political maneuvering from her office there in Congress is who? Eduardo Cunha, who was convicted. Oh, if we don't learn to vote for decent people, then we'll have these useless troublemakers representing the criminals again. Then we won't have anything good. Oh, Jesus. Lula and Alcolumbre renew ties on the eve of the election and with an eye on 2027. The meeting, which lasted about 2 hours, aimed to move forward key items considered important by the government in the Senate before the October elections. The meeting was also attended by the Minister of Institutional Relations, José Guimarães, and the government leader in the Senate, Senator Teresa Leitão. Can we trust them, Andrea? Obviously not. In fact, in the Q&A session yesterday at 8 p.m., I talked about this regarding Hugo Mota. And now I'm going to talk here about Davi Alcolumbre. What does Davi Alcolumbre want? The same thing that Hugo Mota wanted. Support from Lula for his re-election as president of the respective house. At the beginning of next year, we will have elections for the president of the Chamber of Deputies and for the presidency of the Federal Senate. Davi Alcolumbre wants Lula's support for his re-election, just like Hugo Mota. And they are talking and putting these on the table. Hugo Mota, by all indications, has already gotten what he wanted, so much so that he declared his support for Lula's re-election. I said that this is not ideal, but it is real and necessary. The more support Lula has, the greater his chances of winning in the first round, which is extremely important. And likewise, Davi Alcolumbre wants the same thing. Did you understand, my dear? And Davi Alcolumbre is even more at ease than Hugo Mota himself, because Hugo Mota will have to run for re-election. Davi Alcolumbre, no? Davi Alcolumbre has secured 4 more years of his term, making a total of 8 in the Senate. So he is calm, he's feeling confident. And Lula needs, for example, the approval of the constitutional amendment to end the 6 days on, 1 day off work schedule, which Davi Alcolumbre sat on and hasn't moved until now. Off the bench. I'm not saying you have to trust. I'm not saying it's ideal. I'm not saying any of that. Don't get things mixed up. But we are in a coalition-based presidential system where if Lula, if he doesn't make those alliances, he can't govern and maybe not even get re-elected. Let's be honest. I'll repeat. Oops. Don't get nervous. Don't be nervous. Calm down, calm down, calm down. I'm not saying that Lula has to support it to get re-elected, to get elected, nothing like that. I'm saying that Lula has to make the most of it in order to serve the public interest, which is to keep the Bolsonaristas and the far right from coming back to power. Get the point, my God, my God. Oh, and that's it, right? Soon they'll re-elect Hugo Mota. Who even is he? And another thing, in the federal Senate, the situation is even a little worse. Why, Andre? Do you know who they're trying to put there? They're already there, already eager to see if they can make him president of the Senate next year. Rogério Marinho. Think about it. What a mess. Yeah. So, like, do you know when you want to get out of the frying pan? Then you forget that you're going to fall into the fire. You can't forget that. So that's pretty much it. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you have to play the political game to get what's best for Brazil. Okay. And I'm sure Lula will do that. All right. In the meantime,
I didn't monitor Gino, says the journalist Pablo. And Moraes' decision harms the entire press, says journalist Alvo in Maranhão.
no, it doesn't harm. No.
It harms the corrupt and criminal press.
Then it harms.
They are trying to turn this situation here into an international crisis. And obviously, Donald Trump is grateful.
Of course, right? Why? Because he doesn't want the facts, right?
The journalist has the right to protect their sources.
They have the right not to reveal who gave them the information. Right, Andre? Yes, they do. They have the right to remain silent.
But doesn't this right take away the police's right and duty to investigate and go after the source? If that source has committed or is suspected of committing crimes. Right, Andre?
Yes.
Exactly that. Without the journalist being required to reveal who it is, because that's guaranteed for them. But that doesn't take away the power and duty of public authorities to investigate someone who may have committed crimes. And that's what the police did and are doing.
Do you understand, my dear? This journalist made a post saying that Flavio Gino was improperly using official vehicles for his family.
And Flávio Dino was not using them illegally. On the contrary, the federal police itself said he had to use them because he was being threatened, monitored, followed, and persecuted.
Yes, yes, and he and his family were being threatened with death. So he was using a vehicle, even an armored one, and it was really public, he and his family, by the guidance of the federal police with the approval of the prosecutor general's office. Yes.
Then these journalists published that Flávio Dino was committing a crime of corruption and so on and so forth. And this journalist received 100,000 reais from a lawyer connected to the source. Then he said it wasn't a payment for him to make the post, that it was a loan. Look, the police already know that he received it. And he's saying it was a loan. Look, he even paid off a house with that money. So, a political opponent of Dino when Dino was governor there in Maranhão, his name is Raimundo Cutrim. A former federal police delegate is the source, the journalist's source. They are all being investigated, all of them, all of them, all of them. And the police can do that, they should do that. And the journalist has never been required to reveal their source because that is guaranteed by the Constitution, just as the federal police is guaranteed its power and duty to investigate alleged crimes and criminals. So they are using this to try even to feed Donald Trump's narrative that Alexandre de Moraes, who ordered a search and seizure at a journalist's source, is breaking the principles of freedom of expression, journalism, and a free press. Oh, what a bunch of lowlifes.
You'll have to excuse me.
Oh, what a bunch of shameless people, right, Flávio? And Flávio calls himself a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. He was one of the first to attack Minister Alexandre de Moraes for what Alexandre de Moraes did. Let me tell you, soon he will order the arrest. If they find the evidence and it was collusion, they'll be arrested. And that'll be the easy way out. Because it's already taking too long. Do you understand, my dear? So like what I told you, the Bolsonaro supporters who say they want to fight and blow things up, that a good criminal is a dead criminal, it seems like they actually like criminals.
Who knows? They are the criminals.
Because for God's sake, people, have some patience or Jesus. It's hard for our lives to get better with these people. And Flávio, where is the accounting for it, Flávio? Haven't you accounted for it by now? You said you were going to account for the money, that it went to the movie. Nobody knows if it went to the film. And it went to the fund in the United States, the lawyers, Bananinhas, over there in Texas, where Dudu is living a rich life. And who's paying the bill? And until today, you still haven't accounted for it, Flávio. When are you going to account for it, Flávio? Then the journalist asks Flávio, and Flávio says, what about Lula?
It's Lula who has to give an account. I didn't give an account to anyone. You owe an explanation, don't you?
Lula owes an explanation and gives one. Now you owe too. You want to be president of the republic and don't want to explain the situations? You're going to have to explain. There's no way around it. You have to say where the money came from, when the money was sent, and so on and so forth. If not, you're in trouble. Yeah, you're in trouble. I also explained yesterday.
Why hasn't Flávio registered his candidacy yet? I'll give you 3 options. Put yourself in his place. Are you scared? No.
Are you still thinking about running for a legislative seat so you don't lose your immunity?
Are you waiting to see if any scandal comes out first so he backs off and gives up?
Or could it be that he is
Trying to find another running mate? Or a female running mate?
What do you think? And
I already know.
but I'm not going to tell you because I don't like to gossip. I don't like to gossip. You're the one who's going to post it there and tell me now.
Go ahead and hit the like button. Like, comment, share.
9:30 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 4:30 p.m. And now at night, we have 2 show times, okay? At 8 p.m. and at 10 p.m. Did they come after me? I already told you, the more you hit, it's just like bread.
Meat, the bread rises more.
At night, we have 2 time slots now. The one at 8 p.m., questions and answers, and the one at 10 p.m.
All the news of the day, super live. Keep moving. There are people behind us. Here's the thing. The way it goes, it comes back. Like, comment, and share. Push from there, and I'll push from here.
Hey, don't be a liar.
Back off, devil. Let's move forward. Kisses. See you.